Hey Richie, great to see the album on the background. How are you?
Yeah, no, all is good, man. Just having a great day talking about, Savage New Times and Incite and all the cool things heavy metal, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, brother.
Always, always. We have been chatting each and every time you guys have a new album, so it's great to
Yeah.
redo this again. Is this a vinyl though?
Yeah, this is the limited edition. They got the puke green.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just got it a couple days ago, man. I'm so in love with it. It's beautiful. It's like bringing home your baby from the hospital, I think.
Not from the hospital though. Come on, man.
Yeah, just it's like having your baby, man, and being allowed to like hold it and touch it. And, I don't have a kid, so that's as close as it gets right now.
Well, yeah. We have lots of these kids, if you know what I mean.
Hell yeah, man. I love them all the same. It's cool.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, so I will start with this question because it feels strange to me. As you grow old, um, time tends to pass really fast, or at least
Right.
faster. For me, 2000 is feels still new to me. So when I saw that Inside has been have been around for more than 2 decades, I said, "Damn, man, what's happening?"
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. A lot of fun. I think obviously I'm just grateful and humbled to be doing this for that long already. I think it's truly went by in the blink of an eye. And
Mhm.
I think this is a more common route for a metal band. Usually it's, you know 10, 15 years as a band before you really gain traction or really start getting that respect, or where you begin to create the records that are what you've been trying to, or connecting the right team around you. It's just, I didn't come into the business right away going, this is who I am, this is my family, make me big.
Right.
I came in as a nothing, did everything with underground independent record labels, independent teams, didn't whine or bitch or moan, and worked my ass off. And I just am honored to still be doing this and feeling like it's getting bigger than it ever has before. It's exciting.
So do you feel that after, since this is the seventh full length, do you feel that Inside have managed um, to fulfill, let's say, the vision you had in mind when you first put this band together?
Oh, I mean, it's exceeded it by so much. I think when I started the band, it was really just like a fun thing with my high school buddies. Like we always wanted to play shows and be kind of like a local band, and just have fun doing it. Arizona provided a great local scene, to do that and to experiment and learn. And that's really what we did. I never would have thought I would have had a 20-year career with 7 records and touring the whole world over and over. I'm still in just shocked that that's happened, and it's so cool. And I'm just like looking back at a lot of that stuff and really processing it now, and just being happy that it went the way it did. Everything was for a reason to get me to where I am now, with Savage New Times, the band members I'm playing with, the record label I'm on, the management. It's all just kind of fallen into place.
I mean, just reading your face, I believe every word you say. But for me, you will always be young Richie, no matter what you do, no matter how many years pass. That's I'm letting you know.
I feel that way, and that's cool. Like I still feel young, and having so many years in this, I don't feel burnt out or tired or
No, no,
you
no.
know vengeful or anything, man. I'm just having a blast every day, getting to do this and talk with great people all over the world, experience friendships that I never would have imagined. It's
Yes,
metal, and the community is very special.
I absolutely. So the album is going to be released August 15th, right?
Yes,
But it
sir.
feels like to me, because I had the promo all this time, that this album has been ready way longer than that. So did you
Yeah, I
have
think
any delays?
I think we finished recording. It must have been the end of March last year,
Mm.
and yeah, we had just literally signed with RPM as we were in the studio making this record.
Oh,
So that brought a whole change into everything. They had to come in and repackage, redo everything, get up to speed with where the band was at, on top of also switching managers. So we had a lot of things in the background that had to be just figured out, dialed in, refined. And that's what took the time to make this record and get it out and be done right. We could have been impatient and just threw it out, and it could have just went under the rug, like so many great albums have, from just not being done right. So
right.
for us, it was important to get everything where it needed to be before we even began to think about releasing this or putting the music out. We redid the cover, we redid the logo. I mean, so many things were just redone and refined to present this Incite kind of 2.0 to the world. And it's exciting, man. It's cool to have all these things in place that we've never experienced before.
So hold on. Did you know that these changes will happen? I mean, you said it was in the middle of the process of finishing the album. So did this change of the record label happen unexpectedly? I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was all of this was a surprise.
Oh.
We had we just had gotten with Atomic Fire,
Mm-hmm.
who was just starting their label at the time. So we didn't expect change there, and we had just started working with Dez from Devil Driver and his management company. So we didn't expect changes there, but that's life, I guess, is
Mm.
things come that you have to roll with, and that's every aspect, even in music. So the record label, they were bought out and basically absorbed into RPM. So
Okay.
that was out of our control completely, and something we did not expect. And then management also, unfortunately, Dez, health problems
Mm.
really came up, and it was, I think, for both parties, for him to be able to focus on getting himself back to 1,000%, and for the band to be able to move forward. We had to move that as well. So it was just a lot of heavy things happening, but I look at it now and I think all of it was for the best. We've maintained those great relationships with the past people and created new ones with our new team. So it's a great situation we're in.
Yeah, you can say that after the fact because it sounds like a little bit of a stressful situation, right?
Oh, it was, man. I mean, you can see it took its toll for sure. So we're just happy that it's done, and everybody is literally grabbing this record and loving every bit of it, and that at the end of the day is so fulfilling, because you went through all this shit and now it's like it was so
It
worth
was
it.
worth it, yeah.
Yeah, without question.
Why did you pick the title Savage New Times? It sounds to me like it's a reflection of the times that we are living in.
Yeah, a little bit, and I think it's about a reflective of the world, but also our personal lives.
Hmm.
Each guy went through incredible adversities and challenges during these last 5 years as a band, with relationships, financial stuff,
Hmm.
the whole thing that we all go through as humans in this society of life, and it affects us just like everybody else. So this record title, you know this is the first one I didn't come up with. L actually sat down and read the lyrics, listened to the music, and he was like, this is what it is, bro. And I heard him say Savage New Time, and I was just floored. It's one of the coolest titles I've heard in a long time, and it definitely reflects this record, I think, perfectly. And as you said, the times and the society and the cultural shifts we're going through right now, it's savage as hell.
Yeah, and the title track has an almost painkiller vibe in the beginning, the drums only.
Yes, I think them being such an influence on us, and Rob Halford kind of being like the one that anointed me into heavy metal, as a child, I think was cool to like pay that love back and show where we came from as a band, what bands influenced us. And that's just a killer song, man. I can't wait for people to hear that one.
I can attest to that. It's a killer song. um,
Thank you.
you work with Marcelo Vasco for the cover artwork. So, and you said that you had to redo the cover and you even changed a little bit the logo. So, what info or data or even instructions did you give him?
We didn't give him any instructions. So we came from, we had a cover idea and we liked it, but it wasn't what we wanted to present for this record and for the future of what Incite's going to be. So the record label recommended Marcelo and we were floored because, we didn't think we had the budget to go get someone like him to do this. And when he came on board, it was like, look, we need a new logo. We need a cover. Here's the lyrics. Here's the music. Soak it in. Come back to us with what you feel that record did for you. And that's the cover he sent back to us. And we were just floored. I don't think one change was made on the logo or the cover from what Marcelo did. And you just think of this guy's work he's done for Slayer, Deicide, Kerry King, Soulfly, so many incredible bands, and we were just like jaws dropping when he sent this thing in, and he's just such a cool dude, and getting the respect that he deserves for still creating artwork, not computer AI work. It's really a vision of his mind and his imagination that brought this cover to life. And it reminds me of like Hellraiser, that total just dark feel of just bad shit.
Yeah, oh,
really,
yeah. Now that you say that it does have that vibe.
yeah, it's really cool, man. An incredible artist.
What about the mixing? This is the first time you work with Arthur Rizk. So what was
So Arthur actually he did the mastering and Steve Evans did the mixing and engineering.
Oh, okay.
Which is so important. I never realized how mastering what it did to a record. I think maybe like Built to Destroy I started to understand, and that's why we ended up using Zeus to master that record. I understand that process is so important in the final product of your CD, of how it sounds, how it feels, the balls, as I call it. And Arthur, with his hands on literally everything that's been very successful over the last 10 years in heavy metal, it was an honor to have him come in and put the final touches on this record. What he did to just complete the music is incredible, and just like how fired up he was about it also made us incredibly fired up. And we had Steve Evans, who we've done the previous 3 records with, now 4 in a row with him, and that process has just gotten so incredible. And his production sound, I think, is some of the best that's out there right now. It's what stands out the most to me on this record. The guitar tone, right, the vocal tone, everything is just like, it sounds like a 1980s record, but with new age production to it, and it just, I think it blows away the listener's ears, and all the things going on and how crisp but dirty it feels. It's just incredible what those guys did for this record production.
It's interesting that you mentioned the guitars, because Incite have made Lane Richardson now a full-time member, right?
Oh yeah, he's the guy we've been searching for 13 years. I mean, like,
but you had
literally
him. You had him from 2022, right?
Yeah, and now being with him for almost 3 years, we've been able to just watch him grow. When he first came to us, it was just a humble guy, loved music, loved touring, no bad vibes in him. And he just really connected with me, Lennon, and L, like we've been searching for. And then on top of it, then he shows us what he can write. And play piano and 12-string guitar, and just, it was like, holy shit, who is this guy, man? Like, and he's just from some small town in Canada, and just loves guitar, loves playing, loves music, loves thinking about it. So I think and obviously his ear, his tone that he creates from playing and all this stuff is just unbelievable, man. And we feel so revitalized and ready that, like, this is the insight we've been trying to get to for 20 years, and it's finally here, and we're just going full steam with it.
So this is how I'm trying to connect with the mastering process, because I feel that you have more melodies without
Yes.
removing the aggression. You have some melodies chucked off doubts and fear, never die once.
Yeah.
And of course, Dolores, which is kind of a special song. So
Oh, yeah.
you had to, so with Lane getting the guitars, he brought his own, let's say, character in those, right? Those melodies, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I think a big part of that too comes from Lennon, also the drummer, writing. Prior to Wake Up Dead, it was always the guitar player. It was he wrote all the music, and there wasn't much debate in the band or communication in the band about changing things. It was a very unfun process, I guess is how you would call it. We were just kind of like forced to do this. So I think on those past records, you hear us try to touch on those feelings, but never really, getting over the hump to really put that together. And with this record, Lane's ideas and Lennon's ideas created that, and that opened up the space for me to present a new vocal performance, to try new things, like you hear on Never Die Once, kind of like this prong feel, and then Dolores, where it's this very eerie kind of black metal type of feel to it, to then Just a Rat, where you have this like kind of suicidal tendencies vibe to it. So it was just really, yeah, that safety of the band being four guys creating it together really let us open up and just be like, blah, like, we can do all this cool stuff. We don't need 10-minute long songs. We can get rid of all the things that didn't make it work, and now it's refined and it's crushing, and we're happy doing it. And that's like the coolest part, and why I think you hear such a great sound coming out of this record in terms of melody and still keeping our groove and heaviness to it.
Mentioning Suicidal Tendencies made me appreciate you even more. So thank you for that.
So, yeah, I love Mike. Mike was a huge influence on me growing up. That was one of my favorite bands. So I think to be able to kind of start using an influence that he gave me on like Deadbeat on the last record to this one, Just a Rat, you really hear me hone in that influence that he gave to me.
So let's bring Suicidal Tendencies with Incite in Chicago.
Please, like that would be my dream come true. I've always wanted to play with them, and just hang with Mike for a tour would be incredible.
That would be amazing. So Dolores, should I say is the first Incite ballad? No, I'm joking.
No, I mean, I think we tried, like I said, we tried these types of songs. Like, I think on the second album you had the song Hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
That was our really bad attempt at trying to do this type of style, and then I think you kind of had us doing it with Mental Destruction on the last record with the acoustic, and just more focusing into, like you said, the melody of things. And Dolores was really fun because we're all like extremely nervous, really? But you felt this like really deep excitement at the same time. It's pushing a boundary that we haven't really got to get into. And we're all looking at the bass player L, because he he checks our metal, to make sure what we're doing is like metal, and that was really cool for him to be as excited about it. And bringing the idea of like having the chorus be a deep vocal and really add to that experience that the listener goes through. And Lane creating that piano, and then also I think one of the most incredible solos I've heard in a long time in heavy music, that solo he does is just It's hard to define. It's hard to even conceive what it is, but it's just it works, and the song works, and to hear everybody really digging it and
Hmm.
feeling it, and like, damn, like where has this insight been for so long, and like that's so cool, because now it's like the floodgates are open for us to really experiment and try on this next album that is going to be in the future. It's a cool time to be in this band.
What about the lyrics? Is this what is who is Dolores?
So that formed into what the story was. Like, this is basically like a reoccurring dream I had as a child. This entity, this ghostly feeling that I always had, kind of like maybe showing me my future, or it just felt so much different than a normal dream. And to come back to me later in life, when I'm an adult and things are happening, it just like created this way for me to write about it. And then Dolores became like a sign. I would drive on tour and I'd come to this tiny town and it'd be called Dolores, or driving down the street, all of a sudden I'd notice a street sign that said it. It just became part of my psyche when I was doing things. And then all of a sudden, we were making Wake Up Dead, and that was actually going to be the record title for Wake Up Dead, was Dolores.
Oh,
And
okay.
what's cool about that not happening is, had that been the title, it would have never been this incredible song we ended up doing. So that was like one of those moments where you're happy the record label stepped in and goes, hey, let's try a different title. So we did, and it became Wake Up Dead. And then Dolores was able to find her place on this record and become this song. So I'm a big person about like signs and spiritual vibes or universal guidance. So that to me was like one of those things that came, that I needed to put out there. And it's cool to see it be accepting like it is, because that reaffirms my belief in what's going on around us is all connected.
Although, and I'm changing a little bit the subject, you mentioned signs. Although I think humans tend to start seeing those signs after the fact by looking at the past. We never see a sign and say, that's a good thing for something good to happen, right?
100%. That's what was cool with seeing the word Dolores all the time, is it felt like something that was going to be an integral part of my life. I didn't believe it was an actual person named Dolores, but it was like this mythical thing in my sense, or this dream reality that is playing itself out, and real time is how it felt. It was really incredible. And then to make this song and have it come out like it did was really cool.
The aggression comes also from the lyrics. And in fact, case in point, you have just a rat. And there you use the sentence, rat in a trap. So that sounds like sometimes like we feel nowadays, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one big part of my lyrical, the way I write the words or present it, is it really allows the listener to put their own
Perspective,
uh
yeah.
yeah, into all the lyrics. Like, just a rat can be a million things. You could be talking about the current politicians, you could be talking about former ones, you could be talking about an ex-girlfriend, or just a friend, or an actual rat. It can be anything. And that's what I've always loved about my lyrics and how I present them to people. It's very vague for them to put their own feel and own reflection into it. And that song is just, yeah, to me it was like just screw this person,
Yeah.
you're not gonna mess with me, you're not gonna steal my cheese.
Well, in the same spirit, you have no mercy nor forgiveness. And the thing that strikes me in this song is you keep repeating, I'm not stopping. This is like, like a mantra, like you are trying to convince yourself, I'm not stopping, or make a statement.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit of both, because to me that song is I'm not stopping. I'm not going to be sorry for who I am anymore. I'm not going to show mercy because I'm like looked at as this really nice person, when at the same time I'm very hungry and very driven. And I'm definitely, one thing you'll say about me is I'm not a quitter. I don't just roll over and give up. I always think there's a way to get there, and that song to me was the reflection of that, learning from your mistakes and getting better from them, and just not feeling bad about it.
Oh yeah, and I hope, although nowadays people do not seem to pay attention to the lyrics, I hope, since in my mind, Incite is still a young band, that you guys, you will inspire the younger generation, not only for metalheads in general, because we
Thank
need
you.
this attitude, right?
I agree, and I think that's what I love writing lyrics for. You got to be tough. You got to not give a shit. Sometimes you've got to express true emotion, and that's what this is. This is always a safe, healthy emotional release for me, which transpires into the listener getting that same feeling for themselves. And heavy metal in general, I think that's what we provide for the society as a whole, is this
Yes.
very healthy release. And it's why you meet a lot of metalheads, and them being some of the most humblest, calmest, polite people you'll come across, is because we have this healthy space to release that. And my lyrics reflect that completely.
Yeah, both in how in home when you listen to this music, and especially when you go to concerts, it's a therapy time from
Oh,
start to
100%. I feel like I'm a therapist, counselor, for everybody, and at the same time getting my own therapy out of it too.
Speaking of Pain Live, you have Summer Slaughter Tour with Hatebreed. However, no Chicago date. What's going on, man? You have to explain yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was the guy that got to choose where all this happens, and where we get to go, because I would have made it for 5 months. And
You
I'm
sure?
just, I'm just honored, man, for Jamie Josta to handpick all these bands and us be one of them, and then him, revitalizing this festival that I think was losing steam amongst the
Mhm.
metalheads, and it needed a shakeup, it needed a change, from what it was doing. And I think this is the first right step. He did it with Milwaukee Metal Fest, and it looks like he's doing it with this one too. So I think that the shows were selected as just being places they hadn't taken Summer Slaughter to, or places that were sold out in the past. So they're
Okay.
they're they're looking for that really good footing as they present this back to the metal community. And I think he picked a hell of a lineup to get people excited, and he wants people to probably travel, like it's probably why it's in Milwaukee. So maybe like Minnesota people and,
Mhm.
Illinois people will come there and kind of be like a destination, but also a traveling festival at the same time. And I'm pumped, man. We're going to be one hell of a band to start a show. That's for sure. I think we have like 25-minute sets. So this is going to be an absolute nuclear bomb going off, and all the bands we have to go before is pretty incredible and exciting, and getting to meet some of these dudes for the first time, and Fugitive and Malevolence, and Bleeding Through. It's just like, holy shit, I'm beyond fucking stoked for this.
So after this tour, what are the rest of the year's plans for Inside?
Yeah, we're gonna do this tour, and then the album will come out in August, and then we're gonna hit the road again with, I believe, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but 6 Feet Under. They're gonna take us out across the U.S., and I imagine we'll see you in Chicago for
Okay.
that tour. And yeah, we're just pumped, man. We want to be busy. We want this record to get out there. I think it will reflect incredibly live as well as it does on the record. So that'll be a thing we're gonna push. We're gonna play a lot of this record live, if not try to get the whole thing in live every night.
And Europe?
I think that'll be focused next year. I
Okay.
think the plan is to probably try to finally break through onto the big festivals over there. We have yet to do so many of those massive festivals, from Walk In and Grass Pop and Copenhagen, and the metal brutal assaults and all those. So we're just really wanting to go to Europe and hit it hard. They have been the most loyal audience, the most loyal metalheads to us since we've
Mhm.
started this band. We toured there in 2023, and the reaction was just insane. Every night, from London to Germany to France and everywhere in between, was just incredible. So we promise we will not forget about Europe, because you guys literally kept us a band for as long as we've been.
And you have also Latin America, right? They have great crowds also there, and very much
Oh,
old school metal heads. Metal heads.
some of the best in the world. I think they were closed off for so long from all these tours, and now that they're getting flooded with incredible things, they're loving it. And I love that. I love seeing the appreciation. It's like the metal bands can feel like the Beatles for, these couple weeks that they go tour down there. You're getting mobbed at the airport, at your hotel, your van, just the whole thing. And it makes you step back and feel really just like, I don't even know how to describe the emotion. It's just such an overpowering feeling to see that love for what you're doing. Sometimes you can tour America and some places in Europe, and that is kind of fizzled a little bit because you get so much music, and it's
Right,
hard
right.
to really keep that excitement. So to see what's going on down there, we'll definitely be playing down there on this record cycle, and into the future.
Yeah, let's see Incite touring the entire world, Australia and all the Japan, everywhere, man. This album deserves the mileage. It will go to places.
Thank you, man.
Richie, thank you very much for your time. All my love to the Cavalera family. We love you guys, and we love Incite in particular. So let's see each other in Chicago soon.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody. Metal Chaos, Dimitri. Damn, appreciate you all so much, and continue to spread the word. And I'll definitely see you soon.
Count on it. Thank you, man. Bye bye.
Thanks, man. Have a good weekend.
You too.